Namaste. Today we will discuss about the viable market and the non-viable market, and due to change in the demand and change in the supply, how the equilibrium price in the market changes, right? So what is this concept of viable market? In the previous class you have understood that when the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied, then the market price is determined, right? And in micro, you understood that there exists an inverse relationship between the price and the demand, and there exists a positive relationship between the price and the supply, right? That is, the suppliers always wish to sell more and more and more at higher prices. Sometimes only at higher prices they wish to sell, right? And the consumers, they would always want to buy more and more and more only at low prices. Sometimes they will be ready to buy only at low price. So what happens then? Think of it. Even when we go to the market, sometimes we just go and, if it's possible, we start bargaining, right? As consumers, we start bargaining, yes, and we simply come back. It's not that, every transaction is carried out, every time you go out there, you complete that purchase and you come back, isn't it? Why is that so? Why is that so? It is probably because as consumers, we would like to buy at a low price. Right? As per the consumer psychology, low price and a good quality. So that's always a combination that consumers go for, right? Yeah. So what happens in a market when the supply is going to be available only at a very high price, fine? Only at a very high price, right? Only at a very high price, the supplier is going to supply, and at a very low price, the consumer is ready to buy, fine? Probably the demand curve will be like this, fine? The demand will be like this, indicating only at low levels of price there would exist a demand, yeah, and only at higher levels of price there would be the willingness to sell. So in such a market, there is no chance that the demand will be equal to the supply at any point, fine? So such a market, it is called as a non-viable market, right? Probably transaction might not happen in such a market because the suppliers are always ready to sell only at a high price, and the consumers, they are willing to buy only at a low price. So the demand is like this at a much lower level of price, and the supply curve is high above, right? So there is no way that transaction can happen in the market. Transaction does not happen at all. So this is a non-viable market in economics, right? A viable market is a market wherein there is going to be a common consensus between the demand and the supply forces, and you would have a normal demand and the supply behavior, and a specific quantity will be transacted in the market, and where the quantity demanded is going to be equal to the quantity supplied. That is where the equilibrium price will be determined. A transaction is happening in such a market at a specific price, a specific quantity is going to be bought and sold, right? So there is transaction happening in such a market. So this market is called as a viable market, fine? A market wherein transaction will happen due to a common consensus between the two market forces. Alright, so this is a normal one. Now from this equilibrium, when can there be a change in the equilibrium, right? You know that due to all other factors, there will be a change in the demand itself, right? I want you to quickly recollect the factors affecting demand, right? Let's take up some product X, demand for some product X, right? Demand for some product X is normally affected by, or demand for X is a function of the price of X itself. Price of the product will be the major influence on the demand for the product. Apart from that, of course, you know, income of the consumer will affect the demand for the product. In your demand chapter, you have understood this. I am merely recollecting the concept for you, right? Income of the consumer, right, will affect the demand for the product. And then it is going to be price of the related products. When I say price of the related products, the relationship can be that of substitute products or it can be complement products. Substitute products, you know, are products which are alternatively made use of. Complement products are those products which are used together, products that have a joint demand. Alright, so price of such substitute products and price of the complement products, they also affect the demand for the product X. And then the future price expectations. The future price expectations, they affect the demand for the product. Right? Then of course you do have the climate and the weather and season and then the taste and the preferences and so on. Right? But never the quality. Isn't it right? Because the moment I say what are the factors affecting demand, then all the students will say quality. I said, yeah, quality. Unfortunately, quality, you know, it is a very subjective thing. It cannot be very easily measured. Quality means different things to different people, isn't it? For me, quality probably is durability. Probably to yet another person, quality means a good brand. For yet another person, quality might mean a certain trait. Right? So it changes from person to person. It cannot be very easily measured. Right? Here in economics, what we inquire upon is the relationship between variables which can be quantified. Right? See, price, changes in the price can be quantified. Right? Changes in the demand for a commodity that can be quantified. Again, income changes, you can quantify it. Increases, decreases, yes, you can quantify it. Price of the related products, yes, every factor that is mentioned out here, it can be measured in certain physical terms, right? So, when demand is going to change in the market, it might be changing due to any of these factors. And for simplicity's sake, it's understood that the demand and the price, they are the two factors that make up the law of demand. For simplicity's sake, it's understood that price is a major influence on the demand. Demand is a dependent factor and price is the independent factor. Right? Though demand depends upon all these factors, for simplicity's sake, to arrive at a basic microeconomic model, it's understood that it is one independent factor and one dependent factor on the basis of which we arrive at the law. Law of demand only inquires upon the relationship that exists between demand and the price. Fine? Right? And there is going to be a negative relationship between the two that's given to you. Right? What about all other factors? When any other factor other than the price is going to affect the demand, then there is going to be a complete shift in the demand curve. Right? If it is going to be the change in the demand due to the price, then that can be understood along the demand curve. Measuring the price out here and the quantity demanded out here. Let's say this is the initial price at which you have a specific amount of demand. When the price is going to increase, then along the demand curve, there can be a contraction shown from this particular point A to the particular point B. Fine? There is going to be an upward movement along the demand curve. So such a change can be shown along the demand curve. But what about income, price of the substitutes or complements, or any other factor? Any other factor other than the price, when it is going to affect your demand, then there is going to be a complete shift in the demand curve, right? A rightward shift would mean an increase in the demand, and a leftward shift would mean a decrease in the demand, right? Yeah. Again, this concept also is understood in your demand chapter. As I said, I am merely recollecting. Fine. So, if the initial demand curve is this, measuring price and demand, then a rightward shift when the demand curve is going to shift from D to T1, that would mean there is an increase in the demand. When there is going to be a leftward shift, right? From D, the demand curve is going to shift to the left. From D, it is going to shift on to D2. Then that would mean there is a decrease in the demand, right? So, increase in the demand, decrease in the demand, right? They may happen due to any other factor other than the price affecting the demand. If it is, let's take up income for instance. When income of the consumer is going to increase, then the purchasing power also increases. Again, the condition is price should remain the same. When price remains the same and when the income of the consumer is going to increase, then the purchasing power of the consumer will also increase. Thereby, the consumer will be able to buy more. So, increase in the income will increase the demand for the commodity. So, there will be a rightward shift in the demand curve. So, from D, the demand curve will shift to D1. Right? Same way, a fall in the income with the same condition, price remaining constant. When price remains constant and when the income goes down, then there will be a reduction in the demand for the normal commodity. Isn't it? So, the demand curve will shift from D to D2. So, a rightward and a leftward shift in the demand curve. It could be due to factors affecting demand. Which factors? Any other factor other than the price. Let me repeat. Any other factor other than the price, if it is going to affect the demand, then change in any other factor will either cause a rightward shift or a leftward shift in the demand curve, or the demand itself will increase or decrease. If it is going to be price, then the change will be understood as change in the quantity demanded, and that change can be expressed as a move along the same demand curve. Demand curve will not shift along the same demand curve. There will be a change understood. Either an upward movement or a downward movement will indicate change in the quantity demanded due to change in the price. Yeah? Fine? Now what about supply? Now we have just recollected the concept of increase in demand and decrease in demand due to factors affecting the demand. Right? Supply. What about supply of the product? Supply of the product, let's take up again X product. Right? Supply of a product X definitely is a function of price of the product X. Right? Price of the product X will affect the supply. Price is the independent factor and the supply of the product will be the dependent factor. So, change in the price will affect the supply. Right? Other factors may also affect the supply other than the price. For instance, it can be technology, the level of technology. if the level of technology is going to be much higher, much sophisticated, definitely the production possibility will be much better, so supply will increase. Right? On the other hand, obsolete technology, right? Technology is used again and again and again, it's outdated and it's become very old. With such old technology, the productivity, everything will fall, supply will also fall, right? So technology is yet another factor that affects the supply, right? And then it is going to be the price of the related products once more, right? And then it is going to be the future price expectation, the government policy, right? And it is going to be the goals of the firm, right? So you see that there are so many factors that affect the supply. Again, I am not going to elaborate all that. This is something you have understood already in your supply chapter. I am merely recollecting these details. Fine. So, price of the product, technology, price of related products, future price expectation, government policies with respect to taxation and subsidy and so on, and then the goal of the firm, whether the firm would like to maximize profit or maximize sales. Right? All these factors will affect the supply of the firm. Once more, for better understanding, for simple microeconomic theory building, it's understood that it is going to be the supply and the price, the relationship between the supply and the price that makes up the law of supply. Right? Though there are so many factors, supply seems to be majorly affected by price, or price is a major influence that influences the supply. So, on the basis of the changes in the price, the effect on the supply is studied and that becomes a law of supply. Right? Now, if price is going to change the supply, once more, it can be understood as change in the quantity supply. So, that can be shown along the same curve. Supply is a positively sloping curve, measuring the price and the supply over here. Let's say the initial price is this much. When price is increasing to the next level, then we understand that there is going to be an extension in the supply. That is, say from point A, there is going to be a move to point B along the same supply curve, which can be understood as an extension in the supply or change in the quantity supply. Fine. So, what about the other factors then? We have so many other factors: technology, price of related products, future price expectation, taxation, subsidy, gold. If any other factor other than the price is going to affect the supply, then that would shift the supply curve. Right? Once more, like the demand, there could be a rightward or a leftward shift in the supply curve. A rightward shift in the supply curve would mean an increase in the supply, and a leftward shift in the supply would mean a decrease in the supply. Yes? Yeah? So, let's just understand that quickly. Let's say this is the initial supply curve S, measuring price and the quantity supplied over here. Initial supply curve is S. So, a rightward shift in the supply curve from S to S1 would mean an increase in the supply. When will that happen? Let's say better technology. Right? Technology is going to become much better. So, yeah, supply will increase. So, it will shift from S to S1. Right? Technology is going to become obsolete, outdated. So, there is very much a chance that the supply is going to fall. So, there would be a leftward shift noted. From S, the supply curve will shift to the left. S2 will become the new supply curve. So, shifts in the supply curve and shifts in the demand curve, they may happen due to other factors other than the price affecting the demand or the supply. Right? Now, in the market, you've already understood that it is the single price, a price that is determined in the market, fine, where the quantity demand is equal to the quantity supply. So, what if the demand is going to change? So, what if the supply is going to change? Rightward shift in the demand, leftward shift in the demand, a rightward shift in the supply, a leftward shift in the supply. What will happen to the price? It will change, isn't it? So there would be a new equilibrium. Fine, it could be equilibrium attained at a higher price. It could be a new equilibrium attained at a lower price. Yeah, that's how the market price changes. Fine, a new equilibrium price would be a higher price or a lower price. Fine. Now, demand can change, supply can also change simultaneously, right? What do we see? Income of the consumer is going to increase, yeah? Okay. Yes, income increases, so demand is going to increase. Simultaneously, there is going to be better technique of production available to the supplier or the producer. Supply is also going to increase. So, what's happening? Simultaneous increase in the demand and the supply. So, can there be a simultaneous decrease in both? Yes, very well. Demand can decrease, supply can also decrease, or can one increase, the other decrease? Yeah, that can also happen. Fine. So, what will happen to the equilibrium price? So, that we will see and discuss in the next class. I hope you understood till here, right? Namaste.